The first time anyone in Dodge City heard Sister Catherine Orr scream was the morning old Mr. Harper died sitting upright in his rocking chair. Folks swore his eyes were still open. Some said he had been gone since dawn. But it was Catherine who stepped onto his porch with a bottle of medicine and came running back down the street yelling that he was smiling at her. That scream became the town's favorite topic for weeks. People joked that even the angels must have jumped. But none of them knew something simple and frightening. That scream was nothing compared to the one she let out later, the one that started everything. It began on a burning afternoon near the Cimarron. Catherine was driving the mission wagon alone, the sun sharp enough to slice through her veil. The trail was empty, no rider or cattle in sight, until she heard a sound that did not belong to summer. A single, sharp crack beyond the ridge. Not thunder. Not breaking wood. A gunshot. She had heard one before outside the mission gate. She stopped the wagon, called out once, and got no reply. Stepping down, she pushed through the tall grass. That's when she saw him, a man leaning against a bale of hay beside an old log house, his shirt soaked dark along one side. His face looked drained by the sun, pale and tight with pain. But when he saw her, something in his eyes shifted. Almost like he had been waiting for her all day. "Sister. I need your help." His voice was barely a whisper. When he tried to rise, he failed. She knelt beside him, and his hand shot out, not rough, but desperate, gripping her wrist as though he knew strength was slipping from him fast. "Sit," he breathed. "Please, sit right here. Trust me." She thought delirium was talking. But then she saw the wound, a gunshot dangerously close to an artery. Blood pulsed slowly but steadily. If she didn't put pressure on it, the man wouldn't see sundown. So she sat, exactly where he told her to, right atop the bale of hay, right over the wound. Heat seeped through her clothes at once. And under her, she felt something hard and leather-bound pressed into the hay, a stuffed pouch bulging like it held more trouble than air. His eyes flickered with fear, the kind that looked more like a prayer. Jack Hollister. That was his name. And he admitted he wasn't supposed to be alive. Someone had tried to kill him. Someone who didn't want the truth getting out. With every shallow breath, his strength faded. Catherine pressed harder, coaxing him to stay awake. Somehow she got him onto the wagon, though every bump made him groan. She talked to him the whole way, mostly to keep him alive, partly to keep herself from thinking about the blood drying on her skirt. She admitted things she rarely voiced, that she missed her mother, that Kansas dust made her angry, that she hoped to God she would never have to sit on a wounded man again. Jack tried to smile. It came out crooked and tired. His ranch appeared just as the sun turned the plains gold. The place looked forgotten, a sagging barn, a porch with one shutter hanging on by a nail. But it felt strangely peaceful, the kind of quiet that made a frightened woman breathe easier. Inside the barn, she cleaned the wound with what little she had, tearing her underskirt for bandages. Jack winced when water touched the torn flesh. Then he apologized for flinching. She surprised herself by laughing. When she checked the leather pouch, he tensed like he expected a bullet. Inside was a battered ledger, pages filled with angry handwriting, names, payments, land parcels. There was also a badge that wasn't his, a letter with a broken seal, and a faded photograph of Jack beside a smiling young woman. Catherine didn't ask who she was. She didn't need to. The ache in his eyes answered enough. Saving his life was the easy part. Keeping him alive would be the war. Catherine barely slept. Every creak of the barn sounded like danger coming for them. Before sunrise, she slipped into Dodge City for supplies. The streets were quiet, but shouting pulled her toward the Ramirez home. Their porch was smashed, windows broken, and their small boy shoved against a tree by two unfamiliar men. She told them to leave the child alone. Her voice didn't even shake. One man, big, cruel, smelling of last night's whiskey, told her to mind her business. Then he slapped the boy so hard it knocked him to the ground. Something inside Catherine snapped, something sharp and bright. For the first time in her life, she understood that silence could be its own kind of sin. She held the boy until the men walked away laughing. Later she learned who they were, Silas McGrath's men. The same men who hunted Jack. Suddenly the numbers in that ledger made perfect, terrifying sense. When she returned to the barn and told Jack what happened, he listened without blinking. Then he said the truth she already knew. Silas won't stop. Not until he owns every acre near this river. Not until anyone who stands in his way is gone. A quiet nun and a wounded rancher began planning a trap that could kill them both. They needed more evidence, signatures, letters, kept in Silas's office near the railroad camp. At dusk, they rode out. Catherine's heart thudded like it was trying to outrun her. The camp was dim, only a few lanterns burning. While two guards argued over cards, she and Jack slipped into the tool shed. Inside the office, they found a thicker ledger beneath a lockbox. Every bribe, every threat, every acre stolen. If they lived long enough to show it to the right eyes, Dodge City might finally breathe. Footsteps neared. Catherine froze. Jack braced himself to fight with one good leg. But the man walked past, heading toward the campfire. They escaped into the night like ghosts refusing to die. By morning, the federal marshal had the ledger. Word spread like wildfire. When the judge arrived weeks later, the courthouse overflowed. Mothers held children close. Men stood with hats in hand. Catherine read every name aloud. Every threat. Every lie Silas had used to choke the town silent. And when the sheriff opened the lockbox she pointed to, the room shifted. One rancher stood, then another. Soon every man who'd been pushed off his land stepped forward. Silas was taken away raging but beaten. Jack thanked Catherine for saving his life. She thanked him for showing her she didn't have to hide behind fear. A month later, with papers in motion and vows released, Catherine walked to Jack in a simple blue dress, her red hair loose for the first time since she was 16. And that is how two strangers saved each other. Sometimes life doesn't ask what you planned, it asks what you're willing to stand up for.